When people think of war heroes, they tend to think of them as highly skilled warriors. They have amazing feats, and they also have the virtue to fight for truth and justice. While there have been more than a few war heroes within our gaming media, one that is particularly unique is MegaMan X. More commonly known as X, he stands as the protagonist of the MegaMan X series. He is a robot made by Dr. Light, and is the first of the next generation of robots called Reploids. These Reploids, by definition, have the ability to think freely, and therefore possess free will. Despite this, X is far more advanced than your average Reploid, having the ability to cry, to worry, and to hesitate under pressure. Ironically, none of these are qualities that a war hero typically has, but it is those qualities that allows him to have the courage to fight against his fears. And it's that courage that allows him to have unlimited potential. These acts of bravery spans beyond an absurd amount of games, which spans to about a century. X's efforts are profound, but every time he finds himself in a situation where his ideals are constantly tested. In the game called MegaMan X, and its remake, Maverick Hunter X, the main antagonist is named Sigma, a Reploid that has rebelled against the humans in an effort to usher in a new age of evolution dominated by Reploids. The difference between the two games is, in the original game, Sigma simply saw X as a Maverick Hunter that has risen above the rest. In the remake, however, Sigma realized X's unlimited potential and became obsessed with tapping into it. The reason why he wants to tap into it is so he could progress the evolution of Reploids. X, however, has other plans that will ultimately go against Sigma. As a Reploid, X wishes for humans and Reploids alike to coexist and live in harmony. Even further, he is a pacifist and prefers a everlasting peace, which is a stark contrast to nearly every Maverick Hunter in existence. This leads to him being disliked by a strong number of Maverick Hunters, especially those within Sigma's unit. His only true friend at the time was Zero, who would prove to be a pillar to X's life. Despite this, X can't help but to feel a sense of camaraderie and attachment to his allies. This would be the very thing that Sigma would yearn to tap into. In the movie called Day of Sigma, Dr. Kane speaks of X's ability to worry, stating that it is the only thing that he could not replicate when he mass-produced the Reploids.
But the only one who seems to worry and fret so deeply is X. That is the source of his great potential.
His worrying shows potential? It's not a weakness?
Well, I suppose it might be, under normal circumstances. But in this case, it could be the beginning of a new connection between robots and humans. Of course, we don't know yet if that potential will be a wellspring of hope or usher in an era of utter chaos.
As Sigma's creator, Dr. Kane explains to Sigma that X is special. This leaves Sigma with a thought. How far can X be pushed by this sense of worry? This thought turns into catastrophe, as Sigma uses a barrage of missiles to attack Able City. This also leads to Sigma persuading several Maverick Hunters to go renegade, in order to fight X. Of these two Maverick Hunters are Boomer Kuwanger and Storm Eagle, both of which X respected.
Kuwanger, I don't want to fight an old friend like you.
You don't want to fight? Well, isn't this interesting? You're a Maverick Hunter, and Maverick Hunters are Reploids designed for fighting.
So I'll have to fight you no matter what, huh?
Of course.
There is one special Reploid called Vile, who has a severe hatred of X due to his soft-heartedness. Sigma uses Vile in order to push X to his limits. Everyone who has played the games would know that Vile is far and away one of the most brutal opponents that X has ever faced.
What's the matter, X? Aren't you gonna show me your true power? Wimp to the very end, huh?
As a defender of humans, X's lifestyle crumbled as he progresses forward, losing not only his commander that he trusted, but also his supporting party. The only one who stays with him is Zero, but even that is taken away from him as he sacrifices himself to give X a fighting chance against Vile. There are two times when X's limits are pushed. First is when Sigma unleashed those missiles on Able City. And secondly, when Zero sacrifices himself and forces X's emotions to explode. To note, Maverick Hunter X does not show this explosion of emotions. However, the original game does. The loss of Zero was the final push that X needed in order to gain enough power to fight Sigma. X uses that power to defeat Sigma, and then suppress the uprising of the Mavericks. While the battle is over, the war was just beginning. Six months later, X2 begins. At this point, MegaMan X is known as the Ace Maverick Hunter. His victories were numerous, and he has continued to suppress the Mavericks. This became a big problem for Sigma, as any attempt to cause destruction to the world and to spread the Sigma virus would then be thwarted by X. Sigma still had his league of former Maverick Hunters, such as Bubble Crab and Roll Gator. However, they would prove no match for X. The emotions X felt in the previous game was no longer a weakness, and instead became a strength. This forces the creation of the X Hunters, specifically meant to fight and destroy X. Clearly, if he wasn't taken seriously before, he is now. However, the X Hunters would prove to underestimate X, as they decide the best way to exploit him is through Zero. When the X Hunter contacted the Maverick Hunter base, they provoked X into chasing them around for Zero's parts. X showed no hesitation in making it his personal mission to combat the X Hunters in order to get Zero's parts. Whether he succeeds or fails is up to the player, and that could be another topic for another time. Regardless, the X Hunters have proven to be ineffective against X, as they have attempted to attack his emotions when it has already been proven that X's emotions are a strength, not a weakness. X's efforts would be rewarded by the end of the game, with the return of his best friend, and the destruction of Sigma's plans once again. It is also this time that X begins to wonder if his dream of a utopia will ever be possible. The war seems endless, and X began to wonder, why does it have to be this way? It is a question that will plague him for the rest of his life. Mega Man X3 would continue the conflict after it was thought that the virus had been wiped out by a vaccine created by Dr. Doppler. This turns out to not be the case, as the vaccine was fake, and the virus became far more rampant than it has ever been. Additionally, the Maverick Hunter base fell under attack by Doppler's forces, and this forced X and Zero as well as several other Maverick Hunters to its defense. This scenario would show X's biggest flaw as a character, which is his profound idealism. This idealism causes him to get into far more dangers than he otherwise would not be in. X3 is perhaps the most straightforward explanation to this, as Mac, a former Maverick Hunter, secretly switched sides and then betrayed X by capturing him, forcing Zero to take charge to save him. While this only amounted to teasing the player with Zero gameplay, which would then be expanded in X4, this also inadvertently teases X's greatest weakness, which is his heavy trust in others, even when it's unrealistic. This would continue to rear its ugly head in the future, but for now it would be seen as a reasonable blunder for X. Despite this, X more or less repeats the accomplishments of X2, defeating all of the Mavericks, and then destroying Sigma. And this is perhaps why the fans of the series calls X3 the game where nothing happens. This is a deceptive answer, mainly because it is only that way because of the lack of dialogue. This is one of those times where looking into the background of each Maverick opens up a lot of what happens in the backstory of X3. With the exception of 3 Mavericks, the rest were regular or even productive members of Reploid society. The reasons for going Maverick is completely due to the virus taking over their systems and causing them to go rampant. Of the 3 Mavericks that were not just regular Reploids, one of them was Blast Hornet, a proud member of the Maverick Hunters, and it was also Zero's friend. While handling a mission, he was infected by the Sigma virus and went crazy, and had to be taken down. There was another Maverick Hunter turned Maverick as well, though this one was seemingly not due to the virus. His name was Gravity Beetle, brother to Boomer Kuwanger, and it's at this point it should be fairly obvious why he went Maverick. The death of his brother got to him, and it filled him with rage. So in order to kill X, he joined Doppler's team and went Maverick. While admittedly not much goes on in X3, the game would serve to show X's status as a high-profile hunter, while at the same time showing his status as a hated enemy for the Mavericks. This game also serves to show Sigma's power as a virus, and how it can turn even the most peaceful of Reploids into mad killing machines. Both of these factors would serve as pivotal roles later on.